What's up, Cohawk Calamities? I'm Quackers Co, and this is the fish fry for December 16th, being held at the spawning grounds. Our cookware for this rotation is the Tri-Slosher, the Splatter Shot, the Range Blaster, and the 96 Gal. For once in a long time, I can say that we have a really good composition for spawning grounds. With our two main painters being the Tri-Slosher and the Splatter Shot, there'll be plenty of painting that can be done, and with our long-range weapons being the Range Blaster and the 96 Gal having such ease of use, it should make it easy to cause damage and collect eggs on a low hazard and really high hazards. The Tri-Slosher and the Range Blaster have a little bit of technicality with them. With the Tri-Slosher, you always want to make sure that you keep this weapon on crowd control, allowing its three-way attack to completely open up and fall on as many enemies as possible. The Range Blaster's technicality comes from a way of raising its fire rate. If you swim jump in between shots, it lessens the delay in between the shots, giving you a faster fire rate and the ability to cause more damage, which is needed on spawning grounds. All four of these utensils have some incredible paintability, and as long as everybody extends to the edge of the map and starts painting as they're moving their way back towards the basket, you can make sure that you don't stun anything there towards the shoreline and get it there to the basket. Spawning grounds is deceptively big, and the quicker that we can get all those bosses to the basket, we can spawn those eggs, making it easier to put them in the basket. One downfall of this composition is its ink efficiency, so be careful how much you extend yourself out there to the shoreline. We of course need to take out those priority targets, but we also need to make those eggs as easy as possible to get into the basket. You don't want to be in the last 20 seconds of spawning grounds frantically trying to get eggs in. Especially there around the basket, we need to focus our damage and make sure that we can keep this area as clear as possible so we can get around to all these different platforms in order to lure our targets and to get those splats. On a high tide, just like the last couple rotations, this composition should work out just a little bit better. You won't have to extend so far with the Range Blaster or the 96 Gal in order to reach some of these targets. But you have to make sure that you keep up with everything that's spawning and trying to take it out. If a flyfish spawns at the end of the Grates Bridge, it's sometimes better to just take out one of its bins and then get yourself back to the basket area before you find yourself surrounded and getting bounced into the water. The Tri-Slosher and the Splatter Shot should also do a little bit of extra work to keep everything painted, especially on a high tide. These weapons have some great coverage, so make sure you utilize it. On a low tide, this composition is just a little bit short, so make sure you try to lure everything right at the beginning of the wave as close as possible to the basket. Get that egg count up as quick as possible, that way you're not frantically trying to get eggs towards the end of the wave. There's a lot of turf on a spawning grounds low tide. Let's utilize it, get those enemies into good areas, splat them, and get those eggs in. For a Cohawk charge, since the 96 Gal and the Range Blaster have the lowest mobility, try to get yourselves into those turrets and keep those Cohawks at bay, that way the Tri-Slosher and the Splatter Shot can run some eggs. And one of the best things to do when you run out of ink in a turret is to get out, grab an egg, take it to the basket, and get yourself back in there. During a Glowfly's occurrence, that Tri-Slosher and the Splatter Shot can hold the damage line pretty well, and the Range Blaster and the 96 Gal can do some good crowd control before those salmonids get to the damage line. Don't forget to slosh above the enemies with the Tri-Slosher, that way you can damage as many enemies as possible with every single slosh. During a Griller's occurrence, the Tri-Slosher and the Splatter Shot can do an incredible job at small fry control. Just as long as the 96 Gal and the Range Blaster can hit their shots on the Griller, it should be pretty smooth sailing. And luckily we have a moving target in the practice room if we ever wanted to practice on a moving target with the Range Blaster. And for extra speedy practice, if you go to Sheldon's practice room, he has a fast moving target, and at higher hazards, those grillers are moving really fast. Keep your aim on point for both taking out the grillers and for just a little bit of extra small fry control. On a Mothership occurrence, we have some pretty good range for taking out Chinooks, and the Tri-Slosher and Splatter Shot could do a great job on moving around, collecting eggs, and doing a little bit of extra lesser and cooler control. The Range Blaster and the 96 Gal have a little bit of a problem reaching that Mothership on approach, so when it's on its way, make sure you clear up the area as best as possible, that way when it gets close enough, you can stand on the high platform right by the basket and cause a little bit of damage right before it gets there. On a Mudmouth wave, we have some pretty good crowd control, so things should go pretty easy. Just always remember with that Tri-Slosher to aim above your enemies and take out as many as possible with each slosh. This thing does fire fast, and it will eat up ink, so try to keep your ink in mind. During a Goldie Seek at spawning grounds, try to hit the furthest away gusher that you're closest to whenever the wave starts. Get a clue for where that Goldie's at as soon as possible. I do have a video about a pretty good strategy on handling a Goldie Seek at spawning grounds in case you guys want to check that out. Just make sure you get those clues as fast as possible, that way you're not wasting too much time. On a Golden Tornado occurrence, we have that great crowd control and some really good mobility. Try to make sure you utilize that by tossing eggs in smart directions, making the whole egg running process just that much quicker. This composition is looking pretty good in case you want to get up there in some high EVP ranks and unlock some of those badges. Okay, let's get into the cookware. Our first cooking utensil is the tri-slosher. The tri-slosher has a pretty quick fire rate for a slosher, but as I said before, it eats up ink pretty quickly. But this thing does a really good job on covering walls, so it's one of the best utensils for painting a wall really quickly before you get into the mess of it. That way when you're getting low on ink, you've got a quick exit strategy, and you can get that ink right back. The tri-slosher does have a bit of a problem on reaching fish sticks, so if you don't have any extra height, make sure you paint it and get up there to start sloshing. It also has a problem on dealing with stingers. It can probably take them out as quick as the 96 gal can, but you run the dangers of getting that close to the shoreline and getting tunnel vision. And when you get a little extra height with the tri-slosher, that ink goes just a little bit further too as it falls. So keep the tri-slosher moving around, causing damage to lessers, and getting those eggs moving as quick as possible. Our second cooking utensil is the splatter shot. The splatter shot is an all-around great weapon. As I said before, the splatter shot and the tri-slosher should do a little bit of extra work for painting walls and turf all throughout the match, and as long as you keep just a little bit of distance, utilizing that little bit of range that the splatter shot has, you can find some great success with this weapon. The problems that it will have in this composition are the same problems with the tri-slosher. Its range for reaching stingers and fish sticks can be just a little bit short, and if you try to go take them out, you may find yourself with tunnel vision. But with that really good coverage that it has, try to paint yourself an exit strategy before you even get down to them. Take out what you can, but don't forget to lure stuff to the basket. Take out some stuff there at the shoreline, use that coverage to paint stuff on your way back, and then start to lay that damage out. The splatter shot does have some pretty good ink efficiency as well, so try to keep yourself topped off, that way you're ready to throw some bombs. Our third cooking utensil is the range blaster. The blaster and the range blaster do fire faster whenever you swim jump in between each shot, and that will be super helpful in order to cause some constant damage to bosses and lessers. Even though the range blaster has a slower fire rate, it is the best utensil for taking out fish sticks and stingers. I've noticed it's a little bit easier to take out fish sticks if you aim towards the left side of their rotation. That way there's more of a chance that the blast will hit them in case it goes just a little bit too far. The range blaster will also do a great job to keep an eye on what the tri-slosher and splattershot player are doing. Support them, and hopefully they'll be tossing you some eggs, making the process here at Spawning Grounds just that much more easy. Once things get really tight with the range blaster, you may find it difficult to get around, but remember how good the app-foot painting is of the range blaster. Before things get too crazy, make sure you get out of there and find yourself a new spot to start laying down some damage. Our last cooking utensil is the 96 gal. With the 96 gal's slower fire rate, you need to make sure that you keep this utensil on point. If you get too deep into the thick of it, it just doesn't have the fire rate to support that aggressive playing style. It also has the worst coverage on walls, so it really doesn't make any sense to get yourself down there since it'll be so difficult to get yourself back up. Utilize the range that you have here, keep yourself on the back line, wait for something to get close enough, or to activate, but make sure you're not spending too much time not doing anything. Your bomb throws can go just a little bit farther than your range. Go ahead and cause some damage before things get too close, then eliminate it with just a few shots. The 96 gal is also really great for taking out fish sticks and stingers, so try to keep yourself on fish stick control, since the fish stick placement at Spawning Grounds is so detrimental to our mobility. On an extra wave, we need to remember that the tri-slosher can attack quickly, but you don't get any extra damage output for having all that ink hit him, so try to keep the tri-slosher on lesser control. The splatter shot can do a really good job at getting really close to the Kohozuna, and try to keep his attention right there in the middle of the map. Work that range blaster and the 96 gal on both splatting bosses and causing some constant damage to that Kohozuna. Our damage output is just low enough that we will definitely need some eggs despite the Kohozuna, so try to find that moment where you can use your special to take out some of those priority targets before they are a nuisance, and to also cause some damage to the Kohozuna. Keep an eye on where those snatchers are spawning from, that way they can go collect those eggs from the shoreline and bring them right to you. And the fish fry usually comes out before the stage rotation, so if you want to catch these updates when they're hot and fresh, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. And if you want other fellow Grizco employees to receive these tips, make sure you like and share the video. Bye-bye. If you want to give the fish fry an algorithm boost, just comment what your favorite or least favorite weapon is of this composition. I think my favorite is going to have to be the 96 gal. I have a special connection with it after having it while I soloed glowflies. Alright, bye-bye.